I'm Nathalie Feyt. I'm a Chief Product Security Officer of Thales Avionics. My day-to-day job is to prevent our equipment and solutions to be impacted by cyber attacks.
Yes, good morning. I'm Aline Gouget, and I'm a technical advisor in advanced cryptography, so for digital identity and security in Thales.
So it's a pleasure to introduce this subject about ethical hacking. So we will see what is ethical hacking, and just to see how ethical hacking can help in our industry. There is a growing what we call attack surface in our industry due to various good things that are put in place for improving the operations of airlines, by example. So there are digitalization capacity. For example, we want the cabin crew to be capable during the flight to rebook if the flight is arriving late. So it's a capacity that you gain by having connectivity during the flight to the airlines systems. This is an example. Another example is what we call the E-enabled aircraft. This is the idea of being capable to exchange informations that are necessary for the maintenance, for example, of an aircraft, and to obtain those information before or during the time the aircraft it's at gate. So based on the two examples, my mission is really to preserve any type of cyber impacts on avionics systems and all the consequences it may have up to the passenger. Our mission is really safety and security, and what we want really to preserve is the trust that the passenger will have and already has in aviation world. So it's really important to demonstrate how we manage this trust monitoring and this trust capacity. So, Aline.
Yes, we want to talk today about ethical hacking. So, hacker. Well, most of the time when I read in the news, it's about the dark side. So it's important also to talk a little bit about the brighter side, which is the ethical hacking. So you probably already heard about some words here. So about defense and attack. So this is the wording in the military area, but I think it's quite simple and explicit, so we understand what it means. Usually when we are talking about IT security and IT and information system, we are more and more hearing about blue team, the concept of blue team and red team. So what it means usually that we have a team that is trying to defend an IT system, and a red team which is trying to attack this system. So very close to the defense and attack principle. So most of the times it's about training, it's about exercise, but it's very important because it has to be as close as possible to the real context. And it's really important because the two teams here can have to collaborate first with many different skills. And here it's very difficult because they have to consider all the potential schemes that could be in the other team. And here they have to do with their knowledge, so they will have to do what is the most simple for them. So why I'm talking about that today? Because it's not only for IT security system. It's also when you go in a cybersecurity-by-design approach at every step, finally, of the process. And when you are designing even a security product, a security services, solutions, systems, every step, finally, you have, maybe a little bit hidden, but you already have steps of related to blue team and red team about the design, and it starts very early during the design. And also, you have this part of attack, analyze, that could be done internally by a team, like a red team, externally by laboratories that are really recognized for that in, let's say, an official context. So this is very important. The message here is to say this principle of having different teams to build, to protect, to decide which type of protection we need, for which purpose, to protect for what, and so on. It's really important, and it applies everywhere when we are talking about security. So, back to our topic. It's about, so avionics, you mentioned just before an example where you want, so you have a system already, I don't know all the details, but you know much more than me, and you open a new connectivity channel. So what it means? It means that, okay, we go back, I would say at the very earlier phase. When I say design phase, it's also because you want to add something new. And then we go back to the initial risk assessment. Okay, you have already a clear view on multiple threats. Okay, you know that. But now we have a new connectivity channel. So we will look at this channel and look at what it means, based on your original, what you already have. And then, it's not that simple, we have to go after and take, okay, so you open it, and what do you need, then the data, where it comes from, and so on. And you have to do the exercise layers by layers. And it is really important also because now, when you open a new channel, you also have much more data, probably, and we have to look at that based on the use case. So it's really important. So how do you do finally when you know what are the threats?
So this is really this notion of identifying all the potential external interfaces of an aircraft or an equipment, and then our strategy is to really have a multi-layer protection strategy. So it's directly coming from safety and cybersecurity principles. That means that if the first barrier here is attacked, we need to have a second barrier that is capable to be robust to this type of attack. And what we want to avoid is to have a hole, a common hole, that would be capable to go all through the three barriers and then to open to an impact on the system. Second point important is the fact that we are considering what we call cyber for safety, which is to put protection for avoiding an impact on safety. And the safety means you want to take the air flight, you take your plane and to be safe when you arrive. So everybody wants that. So this is the first impact we want to block. Okay. So when we go now to this feeling as a passenger, I'm going back to the subject of ethical hacking. To give you a testimony, in 2015, there have been in the press a claim by an ethical hacker, Chris Roberts, who maintained the fact that he was capable from his passenger seat to have some impact on the aircraft. So it was a big crisis in the press, etc. So it's probably for those who are following the top of the iceberg. But it was a strong work on our side to understand what is his claim, which was false, in fact, at the end, and to study everything, because he took 17 flights. So we need to understand which equipment, which aircraft, which airline, and to going back to the layers of protection I presented and to understand. So what we would like, what we call ethical hacker, would be an hacker then not going to the press directly, but going to us, saying what he found, so that we can, in a good way, not under crisis and with the news, we can be capable to do this analysis and to bring back better protection if needed. This is really what we'd like.
Yes, so here, this is the life cycle when we are talking about cybersecurity by design. And you go through the full life cycle, starting for the design of the product and after the use. So I will start with the design, just to try to tell you what could mean also ethical hacking at different steps. So for the identification phase, I think I already talked about that, but what I want to say, it starts very early here, and it's really important because as, let's say, a technical guy, advisor, sorry, what I can say is sometimes we receive just a requirement, technical requirement, and sometimes our answer can just be no. Sorry, it's just not possible. Why? Because maybe there are other ways to define this technical requirement. And sometimes, I tell you because it happened on a current project, if we go back to the risk assessment and understand in the end what was the need exactly, why someone is thinking that we need to have this technical feature. In fact, it's not the technical feature. It's because they have done a risk assessment and they want to manage the risk and reduce really the impact of the attack. So in that case, if we understand that it is the real requirement, we can say, okay, good. Then we can propose something, and we can really propose a technical solution for that. And it's not that obvious. So if you are not really convinced about the interest to have plenty of different people trying to identify the risk before going to the protection, where we really decide what we want to put as a security features or security protections. I don't know. Sorry. So yes, I hope I try to explain a little bit. So identification, risk, very important for the first phase and before deciding what we want to put in place. And it's really important because for the selection and definition and development of how we want to protect, it's very related to the real understanding on the why we really want to have that. So after that, when it's used.
So then we are entering into service. That means the system sits in the field, embedded in an aircraft. So here, what we really want is to detect what could happen in service. So you need to have think about that in your design. I mean, if you are like blind and no capacity to detect a cyber attack, then it's difficult. Then you go to the response. I mean, the response is variable. It can be changing the way you operate the aircraft, but it can be also technical answers. And if we need to have a kind of recovery phase, perhaps with a patch, then we go for the recovery. So this cycle that Aline presented is to be taken by the beginning with the detection phase when we are in service. And then, again, we have the response, the recovery, the identification back to these new risks that we have seen as a vulnerability in service. That can be disclosed by an ethical hacker or found by the customer. And then we go back to the protection of the system. So to go fast on the conclusion, I want to say that we are providing equipment and solutions for aircraft, but there is a focus on only the aircraft, but what we presented is applicable to the aviation sector in general. Because this spirit of identifying the risk and knowing and sharing the roles and the responsibility for each of the actors, the aircraft between themselves, the airlines between themselves, the link with the airports, the link with the air traffic control, is something we need to understand to clearly share, and it's important for industry, where we want to put the protection to be the most efficient and the most competitive and the most safe and secure for our industry. So all those stakeholders have a role. I mean, even, for example, the supply chain. I mean, the person who is providing some data that is then loaded into the aircraft has a responsibility in this whole sector, and we need to identify the risk at this level. So finally, to conclude, this notion of chain of trust is really important. Aircraft is one piece of the chain of trust in the aviation industry. There are other chains, other elements of the chains, other actors. They need also to take in care the cybersecurity. And ethical hacking is key in this global system, because it is a link we may have either in the design or in the in-service phase with ethical hackers, researchers who found things that are of interest, and they can go to us and be integrating in our global context. Okay, thank you. Aline, small word?
No, thank you. It was very important for us to share that and to try to speak much more about ethical hacking. And we see now some articles in the news, and I think it's a good thing to share on that. So thank you.